And good morning, everyone. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Today is the 14th of May, 2020. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome as you come in. I see Edelson James was right there. You made a big deal yesterday, Edelson. You said you were first. Yay, or something like that. That was pretty good. Anyway, here we are. I wasn't really planning on doing this one, but I have a couple of reasons for it. The first is that, believe it or not, it looks like Saturday, probably late afternoon. I haven't settled on the time yet. I have to talk to the person that is going to do this with me. We're going to do a nightcap. It's going to be an early one. It's not going to be late for a lot of reasons. But we're going to do a nightcap on Saturday, this coming Saturday. And it'll probably be, I'm thinking probably around 5 p.m. is what I'm thinking. 5 or 6, I'll let you know. However, you might recall several months back I said that I wanted to do, maybe I didn't mention it, but I wanted to do an interview with a bartender, and a female bartender at that. And the reason is because the stories that they can tell you and the experiences that they've had, I mean, they're almost second to none. Probably better than what most psychiatrists hear about, because when you're talking to a psychiatrist, you still hold back a little bit, but you get a little bit of sauce in you, and you have a tendency to unload some things. So we are going to have a nightcap Saturday afternoon, 5 or 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and it'll be with a lady who's been a bartender, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I wanted to make that announcement up front. If you can't make it, that's fine. Of course, it'll be up on YouTube if they don't take me down after the live stream. It will be a live stream. That's the way we're going to do it, and I probably will take some comments from the chat. But at any rate, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This lady in particular is kind of a riot. Her life's history is tragic in a lot of ways, but she's come through it pretty well. So I think you'll enjoy yourselves. We might even get on some other topics about how to handle life traumas and things like that. I'm going to leave that up to her, though. Most of it is for fun. Okay, before we go any further, well, it's crazy, isn't it? By the way, I found another cup yesterday. I'm not an impulse buyer. I don't go in and see something and just buy it normally. I'm just not like that. Normally, I'll go and I'll look around and I'll think about it. Now, if it's on sale, like it's the last day of the sale, I might make an exception. But most of the time, I'm not an impulse buyer. And so, like when I first saw this cup, I actually waited a day before I picked it up. I don't know if I really explained that, but I waited a day before I went and bought it. Because I wanted to make, first of all, I like a wider bottom on my cups so that, down here, so that when I set it down, there's not a chance of it tipping over. These, there's a lot of weight up here, and that's not a big base, but I just couldn't pass up, what it said. Well, yesterday I was at Cabela's. I'm going to go back today. And I saw a cup there that's Second Amendment. And it's not as big as this. It's only a 16-ounce cup. This is a 22. But I like it. It's a Second Amendment cup, and it says everything I've ever said about it. And so I'm going to pick it up today. So you'll probably see me the next time that we're on one of these, not a nightcap so much, but one of these early ones like this. You'll probably see me with my Second Amendment cup from Cabela. So I am going to go pick that up today, just to warn everybody. Okay, well, here's to you. And yes, we will be drinking during the nightcap. We'll behave ourselves. Well, I will behave myself. I don't know whether she will or not. Like I say, she's pretty outgoing, and so I'm going to let her. The only time I'll rein her in is if she gets, and I don't think she will, if she gets a little bit too much down in the the dirt weeds and things like that. But at any rate, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we'll have a lot of fun. So that's the first thing. Okay, the next thing is, why did I title this VETS? What the hell did we spend years defending? I've reached out to a lot of prior retired military, and some have responded and some have not. And some have responded in a way that I was really kind of disappointed. And again, a lot of that I put to the fact that, I wasn't the Army's best officer. As a matter of fact, when you read history, Custer was like last in his class, and he proved out why that should have been. But Ulysses S. Grant was like second from the bottom. Robert E. Lee, on the other hand, was like, the valedictorian. So, it's kind of weird how things work out. But as I've often said, the important thing is that I was there, and I rubbed elbows and I did things and helped to make plans. Just all the things that officers do. I know the enlisted, they work for a living, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Officers work a lot of hours. They do. Well, not all of them. I had one. I can't say his name. I had one. When I was a lieutenant, a second lieutenant in the MP Corps out at Fort Ord. We had an operations officer, a captain. I won't mention his name. He was a funny dude. He was a West Point graduate, and he was about the most do-nothing officer I think I ever saw in my entire career, honestly. But he was a riot too. As a matter of fact, if he ever watches this, he's going to be insulted that I say he's a do-nothing officer. But I don't think he'd disagree with me. He on his desk, he hated the Army so much. On his desk in his office in the MP station, actually it was the Provost Marshal's office. He had a pile. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but he had a pile. I'm just going to say it. He had a pile of bullshit that had been they had put plastic. They put it in plastic, so it was encased in plastic, but you could still touch it. It wasn't like it was in a cube. It was right there. And I said, why do you keep that on there? He says, because this is all bullshit. So, it was really funny. He was a great guy. But when I was on the Murray Police Department in Utah, what a weird place to run into this guy. Because, I think he grew up in New York. I don't remember exactly where he grew up, but I was out on patrol one day, and I was out and walking down State Street. I forget why I was there. I got out of my car and I was out looking at something. I don't recall what it was. But I looked down the sidewalk facing north, and here he comes running up the street jogging. I couldn't believe it. And I said, what are you doing here? He says, well, I'm here, doing some business stuff. And he says, what are you doing here? And I said, well, you can see I work here. He goes, oh, man. So there we were. And that was like, let's see, it had probably been 3 years since I'd seen him at Fort Ord. So it's funny how things like that go. But anyway, that's a long way around talking about vets. I've reached out to Colonel Schaefer and some others, Colonel Schlichter, who I'm going to mention here in a minute, Colonel Manus, and some others, both enlisted and officers. And I've only had a few respond to me. And a lot of it has to do, like I said, lackluster career for one thing, even though I was there. I did some pretty big stuff, but normally it was like I do here. I was usually calling out the asinine things that the people in charge were doing. That kind of thing just drove me crazy, and so that didn't help a lot in my career, of course. I think I told you when I testified against that brigadier general when I was a first lieutenant, my career manager from the Pentagon called me up and said, boy, Potter, you stepped on it big this time. Your career's not going to go anywhere. And it didn't. I was surprised I made it to lieutenant colonel. That was really surprising. But I guess at least that part they couldn't keep me away from. But at any rate, so but I keep in contact on Twitter with some of these guys, and Colonel Schlichter is one that he works for. Or he's a contributor, or maybe he's a part owner. I'm not sure, of Town Hall, and he writes very, very good columns. I always appreciate Colonel Schlichter whenever he has something to say. He's down to earth, and he tells it like it is. He doesn't BS you. Well, last night, or maybe it was early this morning, I saw he put up a tweet. I'm just going to show it to you here, and then I'll read it to you, okay? All right? So there it is right there. Now, it's not to me, but let me read this to you, and this is why I titled this the way I did. He said, and he's been talking a long time. A lot of times I quote him. He and Colonel Manus, and even Colonel Schaefer, and, Navy SEAL Craig Sawyer, Navy SEAL Matt Bracken, etc. I quote these guys a lot. Florida Maquis, same kind of thing. He was an intelligence dude, Army. So Colonel Schlichter is often talking about this is out of control. The left is going to go kinetic. You're going to have to look out. Buy guns and ammunition. Prepare to defend yourselves. He's been saying that for a long time. Well, last night, I guess it was. Yeah. last night. This is what he says. Are there any other vets tonight wondering what the hell they spent years defending? Oh, I don't regret defending America. I do wonder why I was defending what these bastards have let America become. Buy guns and ammunition to protect your life and liberty. I have to agree. I'm lending, and you know where I stand on that. I've been saying that for a very, very long time. And we can't even trust, and Kurt Schlichter would not like me saying this, I don't think, but it really doesn't matter because I'll say it anyway. Of course, I've lost all respect for President Trump at this point, and I don't trust him at all. Boy, Rich Higgins isn't going to like to hear that. You know, my Republican insiders aren't going to like to hear that. But they know I speak my mind, and I certainly have more than enough evidence to go along with where I've placed myself. And we're going to get into more of that here in just a few minutes. On that point about the left going kinetic, and unfortunately the right as well, we can't trust the people on the conservative side, supposed conservative side in politics. Look where Trump has gone. He was never a conservative. He was always a liberal Democrat, saw this movement that we were in, and decided to ride that wave. And he fooled us all. And you all know how I think about that. We'll talk about that again in a minute. But the point is that those of us like Kurt Schlichter, like Colonel Manus, like Craig Sawyer, like Matt Bracken, like Colonel Schaefer, all of us who are warning about these things, we can see what's coming. And this whole thing with the coronavirus, the Wuhan virus, the whole thing about contact tracing and threats, to, the HR 6666, whether it passes or not, they're going to get this done one way or the other. And so what we're anticipating is, and I'm not telling you to fight the government. My gosh, you will not win in that situation. But you're going to have to resist somehow. Get out of the cities, as Alex Jones has said, and other people. Get yourself a place if you can. If you can't, try to circle the wagons with your neighbors. There are a lot of things you can do. But this isn't going to go well. You've seen what the police do. They're going after people, jailing mothers, beating them up, throwing handcuffs on them. This is just, they emptied the prisons of even child molesters, pedophiles, because, they might be at risk because of the virus. And then they grab moms who have their kids at the playground or whatever. They arrested a couple yesterday. I saw this, or maybe it was a few days ago. They were in a restaurant, and this little tiny cop, this little shit turd cop, he was wider than he was tall, comes up and he arrests this couple. And they were older. They were probably, 60, maybe 70. Now, that might be a little older than they really were. But the point is, that's what's happened. And he takes them to jail. Ladies and gentlemen, as Kurt Schlichter said, what did all of us defend America for? Oh, well, the public health is more important than your rights. No, it isn't. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that. And these acts of Congress and statutes and things that violate that are illegal. Cops take an oath and military take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Unfortunately, and I know officers in particular that have done this, I was there, I saw it, who believe that following the Constitution is doing what your boss tells you to do, right or wrong. And of course, that's wrong. So at any rate, Kurt Schlichter sees what's coming. And we're going to get hit from both sides. We're going to get hit from the leftists. By that I mean the leftist Democrats, the ISIS people, the La Raza, the Antifa, generally just the left. The Marxist left is going to hit us, okay? They're going to attack us, and as Alex Jones often says, the media and the politicians like Pelosi are going to blame that on us, on the conservatives who are merely trying to protect ourselves, okay? Sort of like what happened to the, what'd they call them? I forget what their name was. But anyway, a group of guys that were demonstrating against Antifa, and they protected themselves and ended up in jail themselves. Totally wrong. But at any rate, that's what's going to happen. So you're going to have that from the left. From the right, you're going to have people that will think that they're out to save the government and support President Trump and the Congress and all this, and they're going to come after you for not taking the tests, not taking the vaccines, hoarding food, which they'll declare. That's coming, okay? That's coming. If you've been preparing, they're going to say you're hoarding food. They're going to come and take it from you. That's what's going to happen. These police officers, these military, are going to follow the orders. What do you think the zombie drills were about? Remember, and I've talked about that before, the zombie attacks, and the government mows men, women, and children down because they're zombies. Those are the people that aren't going to take the vaccines. They're going to come after us. So we're going to be pinched from both sides. Okay, you're going to get it from the left, and you're going to get it from these self-righteous, stupid, ignorant, constitutionally ignorant, and violent, anti-constitutionalist people from the right, and we're going to be stuck in the middle. It's going to be hard to navigate this. If you watched Monty last night and the night before, he had a monograph. He had a video about this new medical procedure, this medical declaration that's come out. If you haven't read it, go to his channel. You'll see what I'm talking about. He does a really good job. I guess it was yesterday morning. He was so concerned about what he had read that he put out a live stream that morning, and the AI kept cutting him off. You can see it happen in live time. Whenever he meant, because there's a delay, right? And every time he started to mention something that was critical, the AI cut him off. So he redid it last night. Maybe it was early this morning, I'm not sure. It's called Hesitancy, and let me bring that up real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Because this is critical that you listen to Monty's information again. So I'm going to bring this up real quick and just show it to you on here.
And in a lot of cases...
Okay. That's his channel right there, and you can see the medical sign there. And he's called, the main headline is Hesitancy, but it's actually called White Paper Released as Foreshadow. And he talks about it, and he's right. This is a timeline, and so far they followed it exactly. President Trump is either really, really stupid or he's part of this, okay? Because there's no way he couldn't see that this was pre-planned. There's no way. There is absolutely no way. Especially with his signing of that executive order last September about the vaccination program. There's no way he didn't know. Okay, so we have no friends. Only people like Kurt Schlichter, and I hope that they see past what's happened to Trump, what Trump really is. I'm not speaking for Kurt. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm just saying I hope that they realize that this guy's not for us. He's not for America, and he's selling us out. And we'll talk about that again in a few minutes. But talking about this thing with what the hell did we spend years defending, and then we have to get ready. The entire thing that we've bled and died for 60 years now, our forefathers, even ourselves, they throw it into the latrine. What are the principles that we are supposed to be standing up for? Our government? Our allegiance isn't to the government. Our allegiance is to Americans and to the Constitution that protects their rights. Well, it doesn't protect it. It guarantees it. It's supposed to be people like Kurt Schlichter and the Army and the police that protect your rights and the courts, but that's not the way it's working out right now at all. So we have no friends anywhere in government that are making themselves known. Oh, they're underneath the surface, and as Alex Jones say, there are patriots in the DOD and in the CIA and the FBI, and they're down there and they're working as hard as they can to turn. No, they're not. No, they're not. As it sits right now, President Trump, if he was serious, he should be ordering the DOD to go after people like Soros, send the Delta Force after Soros. Like that's going to happen, right? Sending out the FBI and or the DOD to all these bio labs, people like Fauci. Fauci should be under arrest and in jail right now. And not that at all is happening. Fauci is on his coronavirus task force. The guy that's running the country. While Trump sits there on his fist with his thumb up. It's just unbelievable. And I know people are going to hate me saying that. I really don't care. Sorry, Rich Higgins. I'm sorry. I've had it. But I respect Rich. I put out a thing this morning about his professionalism. He knows. He looks inside things. He sees what's happening. He's not critical of Trump, although he has said to me that Trump needs to be reminded he needs to do his job. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. But I got to read to you what he put out. It was just this morning, I think. May have been last night. never sure about these things because I take screenshots. This is Rich Higgins. Remember, he was the guy that was thrown out of the White House for writing the paper to warn President Trump about the coup that was happening to him. He and Ezra Cohen-Watnick, who now is back in the news, Ezra Cohen-Watnick, everything that he did and Rich shows that they're heroes. They're real heroes. And Ezra's a young guy. I think he's like 28, 29, maybe 30 by now. So that's who Rich Higgins is. H.R. McMaster threw him out. And Trump, you know, supposedly from what we heard, he was upset. I guess he was told about this thing with Watnick and Higgins being thrown out. He was upset, told about it by, I guess it was Don Jr., but he didn't do anything. That's why I think Trump is actually complicit in more ways than we realize, because he's let these things happen and hasn't turned them around, which he very easily could have. He needed friends in the White House, friends to us, and that's not what's been happening. And I think that's why I think that actually H.R. McMaster was doing what he wanted him to do. Anyway, this is what Rich Higgins says. Okay, first of all, he's replying to this tweet by Eli Lake. And I haven't got the whole tweet here, but you'll get the idea. What he says is, Eli Lake, the best way to view Sullivan's, you know about Judge Sullivan saying that he's bringing in this former judge, this anti-Trumper dude who has written against Flynn in the past. He's bringing him in. This has never been done before. Bringing him in to decide whether or not, you know, the DOJ should have said to drop the charges against Flynn. Well, that's not the judge's purview. The judge is the referee between the government and the suspect, the defendant. And if either party, I mean, especially if he's not the guy that's supposed to do that. I mean, he does have the right to, as Pantano and Mark Pantano and Judge Napolitano and others have said, to say, well, I'm going to sentence him anyway because he did plead guilty. He could just not do it. But he's bringing it. Why doesn't he just make the decision? Why doesn't he put his name on the line? This is a game, and it's very dangerous, and that's why I say we're going down a really bad road right now. I've talked about the war in the government, and there's always been one, but not like it's been since the Boston bombing, and even before that, but that's when it became crystal clear. So this is what Eli Lake says. The best way to view Sullivan's unprecedented actions today in the Flynn case is as a last gasp of the resistance. I read that too, and I went, what? Their last gasp? Like Q says, oh, In the last year, the collusion conspiracy theory has, and he talks about this being the last gasp of the Democrats and the leftist Marxists in the government, and this resistance against the will of the people and President Trump. This is Rich Higgins' response to that. Listen to this. Critical assumption that these are last gasps. He's calling this guy out, Eli Lake, for thinking that, this is a good situation that's occurring, that it's going to go our way. What if that's not the case? The most dangerous course of action is these Marxist revolutionaries, their domestic and international sponsors, and their surrogates auxiliaries initiate kinetic operations. Let me read that to you again. Again, Eli Lake said that this thing that Sullivan did was a last gasp of basically the leftist Marxist resistance. And Rich Higgins responds, critical assumption that these are last gasps. What if that's not the case? The most dangerous course of action is these Marxist revolutionaries, their domestic and international sponsors, and their surrogates auxiliaries initiate kinetic operations. This is imminent because they want the United States gone. They want us balkanized, as I've talked about that many times. By the way, how's the sound here? I've been yakking here for what? 25 minutes. Is the sound okay, ladies and gentlemen? Is it okay? Maybe just let me know. It looks like it must be because people are talking about Chronic 321. I'm not a bartender. I'm going to interview a bartender. Boy, sometimes I wonder if I'm speaking English. So the sound must be okay. Yeah, great. Thanks, Edelson. So here we are. Again, what did Kurt Schlichter mean by this? What the hell did we spend years defending this country for? What were we defending? The government? Not our rights? The government's supposed to be there to protect our God-given rights, and they've usurped every right from us. Every one, at one point or another. Okay, I already showed you a white paper released from Monograph's channel. Another thing, and this is before I get into Trump again. Yeah, I'm going to lay into him again. There was, I don't know if the show was on last night. I knew it was going to happen, or if it's tonight. I don't know when it was. Apparently it was last night. That CNN had Greta Thunberg on. You remember Greta Thunberg? Lionel makes fun of her sometime. If you've seen him do that, you know, the young girl that was talking about global warming and all of that. How dare you, as Lionel would say. YouTube and these other networks, social platforms, will not let the doctors that counter the official narrative stay on YouTube. They censor them, they throw them off, or any other social platform, or even at the debates that they have, or these presentations, these things that they put on. They say that they're not qualified. They can't, that Fauci's qualified, and all these people that support the official narrative, they're qualified, but good doctors that know better are not. Now, just last night I put up one, I was a doctor on Twitter, a doctor last night, a lady who defied the pharmaceutical companies and the state health department and the all of that about giving hydroxychloroquine to patients that have this new virus. She's defied it. I put it on my Twitter line. You can go look at it if you want. I'm not going to talk about it here. But she stood up about it, and she called. She was for President Trump. She's backing him. Okay, she probably does support him completely. But whether or not she can see what's really happening here, I'll point that out in a minute. But this doctor was competent. It's like Dr. Batar. It's like the two from Cedars-Sinai. Although I disagreed with them saying that testing was required and all that stuff, because that I felt like that they were, and I mentioned this at the time, that they told us 99 truths to slip that one thing in of letting government into our homes, etc. But at any rate, the point is that let me read this to you. This is another tweet. It's from a libertarian thought, THOT. Do you know what that means? I won't repeat it here. But anyway, this person says, they banned legitimate doctors from YouTube, but Greta Thunberg is going to be on CNN tonight promoting this whole thing. So if they can stop legitimate doctors from giving an opposing viewpoint, and they're qualified to do so, but they say they're not qualified, what the hell is Greta Thunberg doing on there? See, this is just out of control. Okay, that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. We could talk about all kinds of other things. We could talk about Mitch McConnell and him pushing this thing with the FBI surveillance on your social media and all of that. We could talk about HR 6666 and what's happening there. All of that is going on. Mitch McConnell, that could have been a tactical thing on his part, where he's saying, okay, well, we're going to consider giving the FBI this power, which they do it anyway. They're just looking to legitimize their criminal conduct. But at any rate, Mitch McConnell makes it sound like it's a legitimate thing for the FBI. So nobody's standing up for us. Maybe behind the scenes he's playing some little, checkers game here or whatever, to make it look like he's, I don't know. But to say that, to even back it in any way, is wrong in my book. So we could talk about all that. We could talk about China. We could talk about Venezuela. Go see Florida Maquis on Venezuela. Excellent presentations on what's happening down there. He knows his stuff. On China, it's obvious that this war was between China and between Trump's support of, I'm going to be careful how I say this, not because I'm afraid of it, but because I don't want to start a big fight on here. There's China, and then there's the Anglo-American alliance. Let's put it that way. But the Anglo-American alliance is primarily revolving around Israel. I'm just going to say that much, okay? So you have this conflict that they basically came at Trump and us, claiming that we're Russians or working with the Russians, that we're Russian agents, because they wanted to stop us from pointing out the bad things that China's doing. Now, this is where these kinds of things get difficult. And like I've said, the wicked will destroy the wicked. These are high stakes, extremely powerful, rich power players that are fighting for top dog. Okay? And we end up being the ones that get hurt from it. You just got to understand that. You don't have friends on either side. Netanyahu wants to immunize, tag, mark children. That should tell you everything you need to know about him. And unfortunately, guess what? Trump is pulling for the same thing. I'm going to read it to you right now. You know about the executive order. I talked about it just a few seconds ago. September 19th, 2019, he signed it about the vaccination program, improving it, right? Boy, during the campaign, he was against vaccines, you know. It's funny how he didn't change course. He just lied to us. Bottom line, he just lied. What came out yesterday? NBC Chicago came out with a story. Trump to name former pharma exec. Trump to name former big pharma exec as vaccine czar. Yeah, you heard it. Trump to name former big pharma exec as vaccine czar. The person I got this from, I had to go check it to make sure that this wasn't a clickbait thing. It's true. Go check it for yourself. You can type that in, just like I said. Trump names former big pharma exec as a vaccine czar. Go look it up. Yes, he did it. He keeps Fauci on. He keeps Birx on. He's in bed with Gates. Do you understand what's happening here? So I sent out, you can see it on my community board. People sometimes don't know what I'm talking about there. If you go to my YouTube channel and you look across the top, you'll see home, videos, about, then community, right? Under community, you click on that and you'll see the type of posts that I make there when I'm not doing a live stream or recording a video. I'm just putting out information. I usually share that, and I use Twitter as well. It'll be something from Twitter, and I'll put it on YouTube and on my community board, and something from my community board I'll put on Twitter, just to try to get the information out. So I put this out yesterday. I saw this, that he had named this big pharma exec as vaccine czar, and I went, no, checked it, turned out that it's true. I got pissed, and this is what I wrote. Trump, he's proving more and more he is on board and complicit with the likes of Gates, Fauci, and Silicon Valley, if not also the AI itself. He appears to disagree with Fauci, who Fauci himself in the hearing said a vaccine would not likely work, but Trump keeps him. These theatrics are purposely to create confusion. Confusion is one of the major signs of demonic influence. Sorry, but just the case. I'm speechless. It's in your face, ladies and gentlemen. We can't defend Trump anymore. You know, there's a scripture, and it says, the man on the watchtower, it's his responsibility that if he sees the enemy coming, he's supposed to sound the trump. And he can't give an unsure sound with the trump because it will confuse the people. All Trump deals in is confusion. And I know that sounds a lot like the leftist Marxist saying how horrible he is. But you got to see the tactics. This isn't accidental. I'd like to say it's just because he's stupid, ignorant. He doesn't have a rudder. No, he's been on this from the beginning. Everything that happened up until this point was to keep us unaware, to keep us in hopium, to keep us thinking that he was the poor victim so that we didn't challenge him and put his feet to the fire, which he wouldn't have done anyway. But it was our responsibility to call him out. He kept us. He sedated us. He placated us. He stroked us. He kept telling us that, oh, Hillary's going to jail or whatever. We're going to save your Second Amendment. No, he's not. Oh, we're going to have Barr go out there and make sure these governors and mayors, etc., are not overstepping their constitutional authority. No. Big words, never any actions. There should have already been some arrests on that, or at least some civil filings. He sedated us for 3.5 years so that they could get 5G into place, their surveillance system, and now get into this situation with the mark of the beast. The vaccination with the nanotech, with all of the disgusting things that the evil deity Pan, if you go look at Trey Smith's thing again, and there's even more about that, where these injections are actually turning you into a receptacle for Pan, because it has all this evil stuff in it, the blood of children, the fetal material, the bat DNA, all the other stuff they're putting in it with the nanotech. This is their way. If you aren't already demonically possessed, you are their enemy. And now they're going to inject things in you that are going to force you to be demonically possessed. You think I'm kidding? No. That's exactly what's happening. So that's where we are. So Daniel Horowitz came out yesterday, if you don't follow him on Twitter, and this is what he says. He's talking about these situations where these governors and mayors are overstepping their authority and violating the Bill of Rights and all that. Daniel Horowitz says this, and it's not the whole tweet, I'm just going to set it up. We will file a lawsuit. You will regret this, talking to the mayors and the governors. Especially they arrested this mom and separated from her children. You have no power to violate the Maryland Declaration of Rights. This happened in Maryland. And none of this is rooted in science. Folks, 80% of the deaths in this country have been in nursing homes. That was his tweet. And this was my response. I'm doing this a lot, lady, reading from Twitter, because I want you to see I am engaged. Okay, it's not just here. And it's not just on Twitter. I do things actively. I just don't put that up. But anyway, this is my response to Daniel Horowitz. Not saying he's wrong. I'm just pointing something out to him. They are setting up for the release of a second pathogen, a more dangerous bioweapon. Remember I said this is going to come in waves? Monograph has talked about it. They even say there's going to be a second wave. This is a military attack, and it's not a natural occurrence. They're manipulating it. You can tell by the way it's deployed. Like I said from the beginning, I could tell that this Wuhan virus, was a bioweapon by the way it was deployed, and they have binary weapons capabilities. And I've talked about that before. You add two separate things that are inert when they're apart, but you put them together and they become a weapon. They're deadly when you bring them together. So let me read this again. They are setting up for the release of a second pathogen, a more dangerous bioweapon. And then, of course, Fauci will be vindicated. And, of course, Gates and all of that, right? But these are mad scientists that are planning this out. And there's nobody, not Trump, not the DOD, not the FBI, that are stopping it. No, they're more concerned about surveilling you, like I just said. McConnell said that they should be able to without a warrant, view your social media and your communications. I understand that was not passed, but the point is that they're there. That's what they want. They want you. They don't want to go after the criminals. If POTUS, the Department of Defense, and the Justice Department do not attack these mad scientists and their corporate alliances, and that would include Soros, etc., they have blood on their hands. Told you I was going to call him out. I always do, don't I? We've got a problem. We don't have a friend in there, and he's not playing 4D chess. He is on their team. And I'm sorry, all you friends, all you brothers in arms, You got to look at this thing, and you can't be silent anymore. You can't play the game, trying to think that, we got to give Trump another chance. Or no, Trump's on the right side. He's just been inundated. He's been attacked so much, he doesn't know what to do. Then he shouldn't be president if he doesn't know what to do, because he keeps bringing in these same deep state people like this pharmacy executive as a vaccine czar? Come on, gentlemen. We got to start calling this out for what it is. This is crazy. This is one of the reasons why I didn't go very far in the military. I did this sort of thing my entire career because I can't stand. I mean, it's one thing to be, improperly trained or not trained well enough or make a mistake in judgment. We're human beings. We're not perfect. But when you see deliberate corruption and deliberate attempts to hurt other people because you have the power to do it, or to endanger other people because nobody's going to hold you accountable because of your position and your authority or whatever, I have a problem with that. I saw where Steve and Ben Nun, it was sent to me last night, Israeli Live News. I watch them every once in a while, Israeli News Live or Israeli Live News, one of the two. He and his wife. They give out some good information. Apparently he had some severe heart attack symptoms, and has not done a live stream in a while. And came on, I guess, late last night to say that, he's pretty sure that he was a victim of one of these high-frequency weapons that interfered with his heartbeat. I don't know if that's true or not, whether he suffered it from that, but I know those things exist, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. So anyway, I hope he recovers completely. He looked okay, but I'm sure that was pretty scary. And they've got those types of things, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know what a rod of God is? Do you know what a plasma weapon is? Yeah, they have these things. Back in the 70s, remember, they showed a little gun that the CIA uses to induce heart attacks. Well, they're way past that in technology now. They can use frequencies to do it. They're coming for us, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said the other day, when I titled that one, they're coming to take us away, haha. And we're being forced. We're in the middle, and we're being double enveloped. They're coming at us from the left, and they're coming from my right, and they're coming at us from the left and right, and they're squeezing Americans right smack in the middle, and we're afraid to stand up and do anything about it because, well, they showed what they do to you like at Bundy Ranch. The people that stood up there, a lot of them ended up in jail under trumped up charges, many of them, and some of them pled guilty when they shouldn't have. They should have fought it. Let me grab my cup. That's why people don't want to stand up. They're afraid. But you got to stand up together. It's an old statement. We either hang together or we hang separately. And on that note, my son Jeremy sent me a very heartening video last night. And I'm going to bring it up here and just show it to you. I don't have the link in the box. I'll just tell you what it is. And you can go look at it. This was fascinating. And this is what needs to be done more and more. I'm going to move this up to where you can see the doc talking. Okay. On YouTube, type this in. You can go to the site of The Scoop. Okay, on YouTube, The Scoop. Capital THE space, capital SCOOP. The title of the video is, and I put this on my Twitter line, okay? So you can go see it there. You can go to my Twitter line, go right to the my Twitter is @RoystonPotter. You should be able to see that here on YouTube. Right, that link. This is a doctor who talked Sacramento police out of the horrible thing they were about to do. You need to go see this. There's a large gathering of people protesting the lockdowns and the unconstitutional things that Governor Newsom and the different mayors in California are doing to the Californian people. These people are, you look at the pictures, these are not radicals. These are all decent people, okay? Beautiful people. The police line up in a line. They've got all their combat gear on, their big, huge riot batons, their shields, etc. And they've already thrown, I guess, a pastor to the ground. They've already harassed some of these people that are trying to exercise their First Amendment right to redress of grievance. The name of it: California police stand down after Marine vet challenges their integrity. That's the name of it. Let me show it to you. Okay, if you can see it. I know it doesn't focus very well. There it is there. See that? And that's the scoop. California police stand down after Marine vet challenges their integrity. You got to see this. This Marine, he's a medical doctor who came up from San Diego to Sacramento to join in on the protest. And he gets on a bullhorn and he talks to these cops. And guess what? They left. The cops slowly just disbanded and left. He embarrassed them. He showed that they are not who they say they are. They are not for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights, but they are Nazi, Stasi, KGB, Maoist soldiers if they continued to do to those people what they were doing. And apparently it got to a lot of them, and they started to turn back. And the hardcore ones that wanted to stay realized that now they're outnumbered. They haven't got their buddies there standing next to them, so they left. They didn't leave because their conscience was hurt. Not the last ones that left. They left because they realized now they didn't have anybody backing them up. Real cowards. So there are some good things that are happening. But this isn't going to win it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Not even that. If President Trump isn't behind us, and I've asked him, remember I've said he has to use Article 2, Section 2, and Section 3. He has to bring people in like, Kurt Schlichter, for instance, or Matt Bracken, or Lionel, or, whatever. These doctors at Cedars-Sinai to be his medical consultants, whatever. But he doesn't, because he's not for us. His rhetoric never matched what was happening on the ground, and all of the things that were happening to him were just to make it look like he was a victim so that we would go along with anything that he does, because that's better than Hillary, despite the fact that he's pushing the HRC agenda, just at a slower rate, like I've said. He's a slow-mo HRC. I don't like having to do this, but we have to call it what it is. And they're coming for us, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, they're going to, somebody said famine. Robert Stahl. Of course, you can see that already. You can see that they're using food against us. You can see they knew the economy was going to go down anyway, so Trump needed an excuse. Not the fact that he blew the bubble up so big that it burst, but he did that on purpose to take it down. He's part of the reset. He's part of this whole thing. It's obvious. And he could pretend like he's the victim. And I'm not saying that there weren't bad cops, bad FBI, bad attorneys. Yeah, he did expose them. But he did it for his benefit and the benefit of the New World Order, not to help Americans, or he wouldn't allow these things that are going on now to happen. So again, you're probably going to say, well, what do we do, Roy? What do we do? I've already talked about it. There isn't a whole lot you can do, but you got to be prepared. That's really the only thing you can do. And hopefully you've got a decent sheriff in your county that'll stand up for you, a decent mayor, how would you like to have the mayor of Chicago over you? How would you like that alien? She looks like a freaking alien. And it's not just her looks, it's her whole demeanor. She's evil to the core. And those idiots voted for her. I saw Mike Cernovich, he put out Mike's, I know it irritates some people, but I sure have a lot of respect for him. And he said, you conservatives around the country, you got to stop being upset with the people, being upset for the people in California and in L.A. and in Illinois and in Maryland and all these different places. He says, don't you understand? They voted these tyrants in. They deserve what they get. Well, that's true. The problem is that what happens in California happens to the country. So that's where I'm concerned. I don't want to see anybody trodden underfoot by these jackbooted thug tyrants. But he's got a point. They voted these people in that are now doing this to them. So. Yeah, Spirit of Jezebel Unleashed. I talk about the scriptures a lot. I do. I use those a lot. Whether or not you believe... Oh, hi, Nancy. How you doing? Nice to see you here, Nancy, as always. I don't have any concrete information this morning. I'm mainly just venting, I guess you could say. I just had to make it public that I supported Colonel Kurt Schlichter's statements about, what the hell did we fight to protect this for when what they turned it into is exactly opposite to what they told us we were supposed to be. It's very disheartening, but you could see it coming. I could see it coming even before I went in the Army. I was just dumb enough to think I could, change something, that I could actually make a difference. No, we can only make a difference in our closer associations. And then you're going to have to look out for being infiltrated. They're going to infiltrate, even neighborhood watch type program. Let's say that right now you get together with neighbors and you're planning on having a defensive posture. You're going to have a food supply that you're all going to share. You've got a garden that you're going to work on. You got whatever. However you plan this thing out. You know what's going to happen? Those InfraGard are going to come in pretending to be your friends. I've had it happen to me. They pretend to be your friend and then they turn on you just the time that it's going to do the most damage. So you're going to have to be careful. Just be careful. I think it was Monty last night said, I forget the phrase he used, monograph, but he's saying don't get caught off guard. Exactly. Trump's not going to fix this, ladies and gentlemen. Barr's not going to fix it. They're worried about the power struggle between China and the Anglo-American alliance. That's what they're worried about. They don't give a shit about you. They want their institutions saved. They don't care a shit about you. And again, I tie the Anglo-American alliance to the corrupt rulers. I'll put it not everybody in Israel, but the corrupt politicians in Israel and Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I saw that. Green-eyed Okie 13. The churches are going to be giving tests. Don't accept the test, not voluntarily. You all know they're contaminated. You also know that they're giving false positives, right? They probably have a pre-op, as I said before, a preparation for the actual vaccine. Some probably nanotech in, I don't know, but they're not good, and plus they have no right to do it to you. Of course we knew the churches would push it. The churches are how the government's controlled millions of people. You'll find God in your heart. Remember I said God hides behind a little dark cloud in your heart, and you've got to confront that dark cloud, that darkness in you. And once you do that, then some things open up. It'd be better to go out in the woods and spend a couple of days and meditate. Bathroom of Mars. I've talked about Skylink. You're saying, how come there is no talk about Skylink? I did a whole show on it, I think. Dang near a whole show. But I know they're not going to talk about it because they don't want to. The regular mainstream media, they don't talk about anything they don't want you to know about. Or when they do talk about it, they twist it. So obviously, this is part of the control grid. It's like I said in one of the videos. I said, these are the signs in the heavens and in the earth beneath that we were told about. Not just the stars, the moons, the asteroids, all that. These are the signs in the heavens that we were told to look out for, because these technologies, they could be used for good, but that's not how they were going to be used. They're going to be used to control and surveil you. And if you don't do your social scoring just right, they're going to put some sanction on you. Hey, Nancy, if you're trying to talk to somebody, this Mitchell Albrecht, it's up to you. But if they're just totally out, it's one thing to make an argument. You know how I feel. If you can make an argument and have some reasonable grounds for it, that's fine. But if they're just being nasty, don't feel bad. Throw them off. Don't feel bad at all. Okay, we've been going for 55 minutes. We're going to go for 5 more minutes. And then I'll let you go. I've got a busy day today. I've got some crazy things I got to do. Okay, let me see if there's somebody here that would really have something. Let's see. Oh, very good. Marianne Butler, we are the church. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with coming together with like-minded individuals. You're told to come together with the saints and to pray often with them. And they're trying to stop that, of course. And it will get to the point, what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop your own personal relationship with God. They're trying to do that. That's what the spraying is about, partially. That's what the nanotech's about. That's what the vaccine's about. I've talked about it, burning out that section of your brain where you have those emotions about God and all that. They want to interfere. They want to take God's position. Remember, in the war in heaven, Satan said that, I don't know if you've read this or not. It's kind of interpolated in the text, but you had Satan there saying, I will take care of this. We'll make sure that not one soul is lost. We'll force them to do what we think is right. Of course, they think it's right, period. I will force them to do it. But for my work, give me your honor. Give me your throne. Don't you see that's what's happening? They want to take your place. They know that you are inheriting. If you have the heart and mind, the Spirit of Christ written in your heart and mind, and you act to the best of your ability accordingly, you are promised. Jesus said that he is an heir to all that the Father has, and that we are joint heirs with him. What does that mean? That means that we get to share in something that no eye has seen or ear has heard, and you'll be able to do it with your family, because the promise is that you will have your hearts turned to your fathers, and to the fathers to the children. This is the promise, and there's something big coming for those who do that. You don't have to be perfect. You're not evil. That's the important part. In other words, you've been promised that you're going to share in what God does. Satan doesn't. The evil side doesn't. The demons don't. So what they need to do, what they're trying to do, is steal your birthright from you, because they're so jealous about that. That's really what happened in the Garden of Eden. It was an attack on God's seed, on God's children, literally. Because Satan knew, Halel ben Shakar and the fallen angels knew, that they were not going to get what these begotten sons and daughters of God were being promised. In other words, I'm going to force them to do this, wherefore I'm going to become their God. And that's what Gates is doing. That's what Soros is doing. That's Alex Jones was talking about, that even Gates and Soros and Rothschilds are really not that high up on the ladder, that there's some kind of entities or whatever. I think he said in San Francisco, wherever the hell they were. Maybe he's talking about the Silicon Valley gods. I don't know. I wish Alex would just spell it out. I guess he's afraid at some point. I mean, if he really does know, and his life is really in danger, I can understand that. But I wish he wouldn't tantalize us like that. If he's not going to tell us, don't tell us. But I do believe that there are entities up above Gates, Rothschilds, and those that want to become the replacement for God in our hearts and minds. And they're going to do everything they can to do it. And if they aren't successful, they'll kill you. That's what all this is about. Edelson James, you're going to cover under color of law in your video. Good, because that's important because there's a lot of that going on. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. Okay, I won't keep you all any longer. We could talk about all these subjects for hours and hours, but I don't like to ramble on too much. I do too much of that anyway. Okay, so the basic point today that we've talked about is that, as Kurt Schlichter said, a lot of us vets are feeling like, what in the hell did we defend here? What is it that we really ended up defending? And that we, Kurt Schlichter, all of us, we need to get on the forefront and tell the people of the United States that they have been betrayed, totally betrayed, and that they need to take care of themselves as best they can. And part of that is going to be defend yourselves against what the left, the kinetic action that Rich Higgins talked about, that they've already started it, but it's going to get worse. I'm surprised it hasn't gotten worse. I thought it was going to get bad last summer, but the timing wasn't right. You see, they needed to have the Wuhan virus and the vaccinations and the contact tracing and all that in line, because it's not about the virus. It's about finding out who your friends are and your contacts. In other words, you don't have a right to be secure in your personal effects anymore, and you don't have the Fifth Amendment anymore. I used to say Trump doesn't support the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments. Well, he doesn't support the Fifth either. Go read them. Go read the whole Bill of Rights and see how much they've taken from you. What are we defending anymore? We're defending politicians and government bureaucrats, not the Constitution, not the Bill of Rights, not good Americans. That's Colonel Schlichter's point. So that was the first thing we talked about. Then we talked about the fact that Trump is pushing the vaccine program. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. The testing is dang near mandatory already, and that's a pre-op to prepare you for the vaccine. The wearing of the masks is training. It's also causing you to breathe carbon dioxide to lower your oxygen levels, to get you impersonal, to start to mistrust your fellow human beings. You're not supposed to touch them. I went into Cabela's yesterday. I really like beautiful women. It's just, everybody knows that. And I walked in there and I was, I wasn't really, I'd heard they had a big sale going on. And I walked in, I thought, I'll bet you they have a really neat cup, neat mug. And so, I started looking around, and I couldn't figure out where they were. I went to the camping area, wasn't there. Anyway, so I saw this lady. I was also looking for a special top. I wanted a Red River shirt, but made out of cotton fabric, not the polyester. They didn't have any, but I was looking for that too. And anyway, there was this lady there, and very attractive. And I'm kind of cautious. I don't want to scare anybody, but I came up to her because she was the only one around I saw that was working. I said, "Excuse me, do you know where they have any mugs here? Do they have any mugs?" And she looked at me, and it was really funny because she stepped towards me, very, very attractive, tall brunette, blue eyes, and she even told me her name. She said, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so, and what can I help you with?" And I said, "Well, again, the mugs and stuff." But we shook hands. She was not wearing a mask, so I could see her soul, right? Her eyes are the window to the soul. And of course, with a mask, you can still see that. But the whole face is really what you look at. That's really the first thing that we check is that. And I could see that she was this very friendly, very open, very nice person. And apparently, fortunately for me, she thought the same thing. But the point is we shook hands and we weren't wearing masks. They want to stop that, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want you to have those interactions. They want you to be on this. They want, like I said one day, I got in trouble for saying this the other day. My daughter was here, and her son was here, who's high school, getting ready to graduate from high school. But I said, maybe you all were listening, and I said, they want you masturbating with this. Oh my gosh. Dad, why did you have to say that? But that's what they're after. They're trying to interfere. Human relationships can be good or bad. There's responsibility. There's you have to do it in a righteous way, and there are different ways to do that. But certainly, cutting off all communication and doing this is not the way to do it. I'll give you another example. People in Utah will get pissed on this one, and then I'll close down. There's a Mormon missionary program, and they send girls out now too, but it used to be just men. Regardless of how you feel about that, the story goes like this. So out on the mission, they're not supposed to even get within an arm's reach of a girl. And I know for a fact that a lot of the leaders in the church, a lot of the people in ecclesiastical positions, and even amongst the lay members themselves, they think that the relationship, having a sexual relationship with a woman, is worse than having a sexual relationship with a man, or with a magazine, or porn, or this. That's what it's come down to. It's part of the same thing to destroy your real relationship with another living soul. Yeah, you've got to do it right. I mean, like with me, married women are off. That's off. That's done. You don't do that, because I understand what adultery means. And I've talked about that before, and I had this one person say, "Why do you always talk about sex?" Because it's central to our core, to our very existence. It's not something we need to be ashamed of. What did it say in Genesis? Do you remember? People try to shame me for the fact that I like women who are pretty and take care of themselves. There's a thing called a golden ratio. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. We're all drawn to it. But here's the story in Genesis. I keep saying I'm going to shut down. Here's the story in Genesis. The serpent comes in and beguiles Eve. Okay? Eve comes and tells Adam he needs to partake too. And we can talk about what that really was. I'm not going to go there. Use your adult thinking and figure it out. So what happens is, and this is allegorical to some extent, but it's also based in a factual occurrence. So they hear God walking over. God's coming to talk to them, calling out to them, and they think they can hide from him. He's like, "Go and hide in the bushes," right? And they're trying to make these little things to hide themselves, right? And God comes up to them and says, "Well, what are you doing?" And they say, "Well, we heard you coming, and we were naked, and we didn't want you to see us naked." And what did God say to them? Does anybody here know what God said to them? What did God say to them when they said, "We heard you coming, we heard your voice, and we knew we were naked, so we went and hid ourselves"? Does anybody know what God said to them? All of you prudes out there who, you won't like this. Yes, I've got it on my phone for a very good reason. Oh, no. Well, now I've got a problem. Okay, well, I can't show you that because this thing just screwed up. Well, that figures. Okay, does anybody know? No, that's not true, Mike Guyver. See, that's one of the scriptures you don't understand. There will be no marriage in heaven. There will be no male and female. No. There are two Christs in the New Testament, and I'm not going to go there, okay? I talked about it the other day. No, that's wrong. That's absolutely 100% wrong. It's one of the things that the Romans put in there to follow the Greek god theories. No, you're absolutely 100% wrong, and I will never bow to that, ever. So, what happened? And I'm not talking about in the New Testament. I'm talking about in Genesis. What did God say to them? Yes. Spaced out, finest planet, sapphire. Exactly. So they say, "Well, we heard you calling us, and we knew we were naked, so we went and hid ourselves." And God said, "Who told you that you were naked?" You're not to be ashamed of what you are. You're not to be ashamed. Because they said they were ashamed, right? We hid ourselves because we were ashamed because we were naked. And God's response was, yeah, you showed your bodies, oh, how horrible. You're just so evil. God created that for a reason. Who told you that you were naked? That's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm not saying to go join a beach club, I forget what they call those, or, where you go naked. I'm not saying that. But anybody that tells you that these human relationships are bad, they're your enemy. You've got to do it responsibly. You've got to do it righteously. But that's the very core of what we are. It is the image of God. And I didn't say that, he did. God said, we shall make man in our image, male and female. Well, if he did that prior to the creation, if he did that prior to the fall, the end result is that's our end state. Those who aren't in the end state are then cut off of that I just described, are then cut off from root or branch from their posterity and their ancestors, and they are the ones that are left sexless, neutered. But the scripture was changed, Mike Guyver. The entire conversation there was altered. You better, Mike Guyver, and all of you, be thankful that God created you male and female in his image, and that is to be your end state when all this is over. If you don't get that understanding, you'll just have to make 1984 from Orwell your Bible, where it says that they're going to make the world sexless. Look at who says that here, and then try to figure out why Jesus would have said something like that. No. Two Jesuses in the New Testament. You better learn how to figure out which one is which. That's all I got for you. Take care. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, your situational awareness on high. They are coming for us. And you have no friends in D.C., not even Rand Paul. Nobody yesterday, I put this out on a live stream, nobody in that hearing with Fauci asked him about his $3.7 million from NIH to the Wuhan lab. Nobody. God help us. And there is no one else who will. All right. I'm going to go. Let's see if I can do this without screwing it up like I do. Like I said, this one-man show thing is kind of difficult. And my keypad is so sensitive. I can really mess up. I didn't mean to sound like I was angry at anybody, but stop denying what you were created to be. Stop denying your destiny of who you are. Stop denying your right to have contact with other human beings. Stop denying your right to have an intimate relationship with your spouse or your significant other. My concept of marriage is a lot different. I don't think you need a piece of paper from the state. As a matter of fact, that didn't even start until the 1890s. Before that, it was between families. A man and a woman, if they're the last two people in the world, can get together. They don't need anybody to give them permission. Love you all, despite our differences. We'll see you later. Again, closing down Saturday. If I don't have an emergency live stream between now and then, one of those impromptus. I'm planning on doing a nightcap Saturday, probably around 5 or 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We're going to be having a social time with a bartender, a lady who is a bartender, to tell us all about her stories. And she's got a lot of them. And we might get off onto some other things. But I just think it'll be a very interesting time because bartenders, people cry in their beer and they tell the bartenders all their sad stories. Sometimes they brag and talk about them being legends in their own mind. All these different... Anyway, it ought to be a riot. We'll have a good time, so I hope you'll join us. 5 or 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Saturday, this coming Saturday, on a nightcap. All right? All right. Take care. See you then.